Welcome to Vialet Studio, where Vialet and her guests share stories of their passions, inspirations, and spiritual journeys. Vialet creates a sacred and fun space for individuals to be able to share information about themselves, their work, and their community. We are so happy you have joined us today. Let's get started with your host, the magical creator of Discover Your Spiritual Gifts, Vialet. Vialet Rain.
So welcome to Vialet Studio. I'm so excited today. I have Lynn Andrews with us that's written the book, Coming Full Circle. Look at all my little tabs. I've been reading, been catching up on her amazing experiences and journeys with this beautiful circle of women. So I'm excited to get to talk to her today. So Lynn, share with us a little bit about yourself and this book and what brought you to the point of writing this book.
Well, that's my 20th book, I think, coming full circle. I started writing, my first medicine woman book was published in 1980. And I was only 3 years old when that was published, of course. And that was the beginning of my journey of teaching the extraordinary power of woman. And I've got to tell you, Violet, it was so incredible. When I went on my first book tour, I was 81, I guess. My publisher, which was HarperCollins, Harper and Row, in San Francisco. And I was told, you can talk about your book and your extraordinary experience with these Native American women, but don't use the word power. And I was kind of taken aback by that. And I said, well, why shouldn't I use the word power? I said, my whole book is about me. It's about my journey and my journey of empowerment, the beginning of it. And I said, I certainly can't go on a show and answer questions without talking about power, the personal power, meaning, being able to define your dream and follow your dream is an extraordinary power. And it's the kind of power you take for yourself. And so I went on tour and I talked about it, and people thought I meant power over you. So I had to be very careful with that, but it worked out just fine. And, it was a bestseller, and that was the beginning of my path into teaching for the next 500 years.
Well, our terminology changes over time, right? Today, if we talked about empowerment, people wouldn't think anything about it. But back then, the word wasn't used that much, just like, all words like intuition. We have ancestors that used intuition, but they might have called it a gut feeling or,
right,
something completely different than what we use today.
Well, that's why I mentioned it, is that we have truly come a very long way. I hear women complaining bitterly about our place in the world. And my golly, to me, we should be celebrating. We have accomplished so much. Since 1980, I think we have. And don't you?
I think so too. I mean, I'm very impressed with you in 1980 to be, pulled or attracted to, medicine woman, shamanism, that sort of thing. Because back then, women wouldn't have thought of that. So what got you started on that path so many years ago? What pulled you in, got you interested?
Well, Violet, I imagine you're similar. I have always had special abilities for healing. I could always have been able to look at someone and I can tell, um, I feel, I guess is the word, their dis-ease.
Mhm.
And I've been able to do that. And I'm sure a lot of people listening to this will go, oh, well, I did that too. And I think that's great. Um, the thing about me was that I not only saw their dis-ease in the world, but I knew how to maybe show them a way to find perfection. Excuse me. And my gosh, I mean, that I started doing that when I was 6 years old. I had a native American girlfriend. She was my best friend. And she would ride over in the morning on her little paint horse. And I had my little horse, Pony, and we would ride together to school. And I said to her one day, um, I said, gee, you've had a really hard morning. Is there anything I can do for you? And her father was an alcoholic and very violent, and everybody knew that. And I could see what had happened. And when I told Bev that, she was so frightened and horrified that I could see her. And it almost broke up our friendship. Uh, she felt vulnerable. And anyway, we had to work through that. At 6 years old, your best friend is very, very important to you. She was my friend and I loved her. And all of a sudden, she was afraid of me. So that started me on a long trail of developing abilities. They just came. And I denied it all, put it away, stored it away, however you want to put it, until many years later, when I finally realized that you cannot be in the world somebody that you're not. You cannot deny who you are. And as I realized that, it was, I'm sure you felt this, Violet. I felt like I had been let out of jail, and all of a sudden I was accepting the extraordinary light that was coming my way. And all I wanted to do with my life at that point was share that. People ask you, gee, what's your favorite thing in life to do? And I have always said, assisting people into the light. And I use that assisting because I would say earlier on, oh, I want to help people, but you don't really help people in this subject. You provide an environment or a mirror within which a person can experience their own empowerment. You can't give that to them, but you can see it in them and help them to begin to see that they're extraordinary.
That's so true. It's so true. So many people, I believe everyone has gifts. Now, what their family, I was gifted as a child, scared my family to death.
Right.
My mother was like, you can't do this. You need to stop this. Like, this isn't, because I would prophesize, I would see future events, and it terrified her because they always happened. Like, there was no doubt in my mind that it was going to play this way because I had seen it.
Violet, how old were you when all this started?
Probably 5 or 6, same age. My father died when I was 8.
Oh my
And,
God. Oh,
and he,
dramatic. Ay, ay,
and,
ay.
and he would come to me after his death and spend time with me and talk to me and send messages back to my mother, which really freaked her out. And
Oh,
and she's like, you can't do this. And I'm like, but Dad said you need to do this and you need to do this. And so, like many of us, I shut all that down because nobody around me understood it, knew what to do. And we have so many beautiful souls coming into this world. Our children are so gifted today. They have, they're way beyond, I think, even our gifts sometimes when I see these kids coming in to support, this planet and our spiritual journey. And I have folks come into the center all the time with their children and they're like, I don't know what to do. My child does this. What do I do, right? How do I encourage them? How do I create a safe place for them? And I think a lot of us have those stories, and some people forget. They've just completely forgotten that they had this and they shut it down because a friend got scared or a parent got scared or somebody at school or somewhere, and they're like, nobody else does this, so I'm not going to do this either.
Violet, that is so interesting to me. It's so true, at least in my life. I went on book tour quite a lot in the early days. I'd written so many books, and I went all over the world, and I would work with people everywhere. And I realized very early on that probably 90% at least of the people in the world today come from abuse.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, not necessarily sexual abuse, but abuse emotionally, where they had to be an adult as a child. And if you're an adult as a child, then you never had a childhood. So what happens with that when you get older and you're an adult, then suddenly you this is a possibility that you will try to sidetrack, destroy your happiness, even your life as it exists, because unconsciously you still want that childhood. You want to be able to play, in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a very important reason, if you were abused as a child, to take a look at that. And I started my shamanic school. I have a mystery school that I've written the entire curriculum for it. And it's a fabulous mystery school because it deals with this issue, that everything that you have gathered in your life, these cloaks of experience, you take them off one by one if they were abusive, and you find this incredible free person inside. And you learn then, oh, I've got all this beautiful energy. Now what do I do with it? Mm-hmm. So in my academic, or the School for Higher Consciousness and Awareness, I teach you how to make a prayer out of building a drum, say, or how to empower a piece of beautiful crystal. What makes a crystal powerful? How do you really use a crystal? And it's so interesting. I remember, just to sidetrack for a moment, I was in Australia in the Outback, and I was with a teacher of mine, Ginny V, an Aboriginal woman, and we were walking across the desert, and We didn't have much on except for a dilly bag, some sandals, and we were, and I was kind of glumping along, saying, "Gosh, what am I doing here? What am I learning? What am I doing?" I was telling this to Ginny B, and she laughed at me, as they always do. And she reached her hand into her dilly bag and pulled out a crystal. And she held that crystal up to the sun, and it gathered the light, and all over the sand were these prismatic colors. And she said, "Lynn, human beings are like crystals. It is the flaws in the crystal that creates the beauty and the light." And she said, that struck me as one of the most beautiful, simple teachings. It was in my book, Crystal Woman, Woman of the Sacred Dream Time. And we did a great deal of dreaming together in ways that were very healing. But that crystal, we look at a crystal and we think, oh, it's got to be a Herkimer. It's got to be perfection. And yet what you see in that crystal are the refractions of light that come from the flaws. And that's what you see in other people. You think, oh, gee, she's got an issue here or an issue there. And it creates a personality that may be self-destructive and maybe not. If you've worked through the things that have held you back in your life, if you've really worked on them and you have found where certain kinds of feelings like I'm not good enough, you find out where those things live in your body. And oftentimes they cause aches or pains or a dis-ease, and you work through that. And once you've done that, oh my gosh, suddenly you are capable of all possibilities. And, we all know that you're capable of realizing your dreams and manifesting your life just as you want it to be. But it's hard for people that come out of abuse to see that. So if you work with it directly and they solve it. I don't solve it for them, but I do know the trail. I've been down that trail myself. So I know a little bit how to guide you. And that's an experience that changes people's lives completely. Because if you're looking at the world through the eyes of I'm not good enough, which is what abuse does to you, if you shift that and suddenly I am good enough, wow, look at me, and I'm at peace now. I can see the glory in other people. I can see the God or goddess being that each person can be if they wish to move out of the travail that maybe they find themselves in.
Right. So true. So true. You've had some amazing experiences and journeys. You talk about it in your book, Coming Full Circle. Some of these amazing women that you got to be with. And I can only imagine, even for me, having the courage, right, to step into some of these experiences. It took a lot of trust, I'm sure, to go, I'm just going to trust the process as I'm being led through these experiences. And the book, can you share with us some of the experiences you talk about, some that really stick out for you? Because there's so many in there. I keep being drawn back and reading a new story and a new story and a new experience. But
I realized, Violet, early on that, you learn from how-to books and aphorisms and thinking in a positive way. All of these things are so very important. But I realized that early on that you learn through the process of experience. And if you haven't had the experience and you're reading about it, and it's telling you to do, write down 5 things that you're proud of and do this and do that. Great idea. But somewhere there's something missing. And the thing that's missing is your experience of that. So I decided to write my books in story form so that you can go along with me on an experience with the sorcerer Red Dog, with Agnes Whistling Elk and Ruby Plenty Chiefs, these extraordinary Native American women, Jenny V in Australia, Aboriginal woman of high degree, and so forth. You go along with me as they teach me certain things about the failings that I have. And as I work through my frailties, if you will, people say, oh, that's just like me. I've done that, or I feel like that. And you come along with me. Okay, so now that I feel that, what am I going to do about it?
Right.
And then the answer is there. Agnes or Ruby or whomever I'm working with, Soila in the Yucatan, they teach me things like, well, I'll tell you a story. I was in the Yucatan with Soila and her husband, Jose, and she's, in want of a better, deeper description, she's a Mayan, of Mayan descent, and a lot of the time they will speak Quechua, a native language, but she is very elder, and yet all these women are elder, and yet they move around like they're very young. And it's fascinating, and still they haven't told me their secret. I said, you know what, Agnes, Soila, it's about time you told me how to be like you in terms of aging. I haven't done that yet. But anyway, this story, I woke one morning, we were in Soila's hut, and she kind of woke me up, and we had what did we have? Some cheese and a tortilla. And she said, come, follow me. And so out we went into this jungly, very humid area, beautiful light coming through the lower trees. And the earth was slippy and slidey because it's been rain during the night. And she's going down this trail, and excuse me, I'm desperately trying to keep up with her. And we go for a bit. She didn't say anything. And all of a sudden we take a turn in the trail and she stops. And I go up next to her, and then I see that my toes are over the edge of a precipice that goes down thousands of feet into a canyon, and they called it La Caldera. And I looked down. At the time, I was afraid of heights, and I backed away from it. I said, "Oh my God!" I said, "We're not going that way, down that." And she said, "Follow me." And she started down this little trail. And the trail led around the circumference of this La Caldera. And the trail, it felt like it was 2 inches wide. I mean, the earth is already slippery. And she turned around to me and said, if you do not follow me, the sisterhood, meaning all these magnificent women that I'm a part of, they will never speak to you again, and it'll be the end of our journey. And I knew she meant it. I knew that I didn't have a choice. So off I went, terrified, crying, and just hugging the wall, wall towering above me, and this chasm towering below me, and little pebbles would fall and bounce and excuse me. And I followed her, but very slowly. And she just went down, and she got to the bottom ages before I did. But before she actually left me on that trail, she said, I'm going to leave a gift for you. And there's a gift, and it's in a nicho on the wall along the trail. And she said, you take that and bring it to the bottom. So I'm edging along this trail. I was so frightened. You just can't imagine, Violet. And I come along a turn in the trail, and there, sitting in a nicho, was this beautiful jewel, ruby jewel, just partially cut, mainly uncut, but cut enough so you could see what it was. And it was the most beautiful ruby I've ever seen. And I thought, jeepers, what is that doing here? And I cannot take that because I'm not worthy of that. I'm not good enough. So I didn't take the ruby. And I went down finally to the bottom, and Soila is leaning against a tree, and she motions for me to come over. And I come fairly close to her, and I see that in front of me, there's quicksand, of all things. And I could see on her face, she's not happy because I didn't bring that ruby, and she's disgusted with me. And she said, here, just go right there, right across the quicksand. Well, I stepped into the quicksand and I sunk. And above my knees, I would talk about terrified, and I couldn't move. And I was just screaming at her, help me. And she was just looking at me. And she said, you figure out why I let you step into quicksand. You've come down this trail. You actually walked through your terror and your fears. And now you're stuck in this quicksand. What is that? What is that like? And finally, I realized what she was doing. I realized I was stuck in not feeling good enough, not feeling that I deserved anything truly beautiful. And so when I realized that, I stopped trying to get out, and she threw me a rope, and I pulled myself out. And it was probably one of the great teachings of my life, because I saw how being caught in quicksand is like you step into the middle of emotions, of terror, of I'm not good enough. I can't be in relationship with that person. He's too good for me. He's successful. He's this or that. Or my daughter, I hope she'll be good enough. And, so you pass it on into your family. If you don't feel powerful and like you are truly, you walk out of that quicksand, you climb out of it, and you climb away from those feelings that destroy your ability to feel free and to be joyous and to feel your God or goddess beings and angels within you, the beings of light, fill you with such joy. But if you're negative, if you're disempowered, by fear, then you just can't experience those beautiful hidden places within your own heart. And I don't know if, Violet, that makes any sense. That's such a crude way of telling you this story.
No, beautiful. It's beautiful. I can't, I have a fear of heights. I can't get on a Ferris wheel. And so it's not as much height because I can do a plane and I can do other things. But when I was little, my dad loved to ride the Ferris wheel. And when I would stop at the top, he would rock the seat. And I still can't, even as an adult, I've tried to get on and overcome that fear and the anxiety that builds up.
Oh, I couldn't. And
Yeah.
It's something fun? I don't think so.
It's not fun at all. So I can't even imagine, Lynn, how the strength you have to continue on that path and what you were feeling and thinking all the way. Here in Colorado, when we go up to Pikes Peak, the road is very narrow, right? And you're driving in a vehicle. You're not even walking. And I'm like, I can't watch the road. I can't watch the edge because it's over the edge. It's just feels like there's no bottom. I can't imagine walking that. So, so inspiring to be able to do that and discover yourself and parts of yourself at the end of that. How wonderful that must be.
People say to me, did you really go on those? Did you really do that? My mother, for one. Oh, honey, you didn't really do that. And I'd say, well, Mom, yes, but let's change the subject. She was afraid that something would happen to me, that I would get hurt, die, or something. And she never, there's two kinds of female energy. There is the great nurturing mother who takes care of children. She's ordered, she has everything on a schedule. She's the pillar of strength in our society. And my mother was a nurturing mother. She wanted me to eat a certain time and stay healthy and dress like everybody else, wear my hair a certain way. And we'd fight about this. And I always thought that because of our differences, I was a rainbow mother. And a rainbow mother is someone who loves poetry and dance and writing and literature and pushes the envelope of life to its final incredible edge of existence. And it's not that a nurturing mother might not do that, but it would scare her, frighten her. She doesn't live in that way. Whereas the rainbow mother tends to live right on the edge. And those two mothers don't understand each other normally. So when Soila actually was very instrumental in teaching me about the two different mothers. And I wrote about this in Jaguar Woman. And I think in Coming Full Circle, I mention it again. But learning that changed my life. I realized that my mother deeply loved me and was trying to keep me safe. And I had never understood that till I learned the differences between the mothers. Imagine if you're a nurturing mom and your child, wears her hair, she's crazy, and she doesn't like outfits. She'll put one thing on that doesn't go with the other, and has strange friends, no doubt, and on and on. And it's very hard. Or if you're a rainbow mother and you have a child that's a nurturing mother, that's even, that can be really difficult.
Yeah.
You know.
Well,
Very important, that difference.
that's pretty awesome. You also pulled the card earlier that you were going to share with us,
Mm.
one of your
Mhm.
decks. So tell us. Ooh,
Can you see it?
yeah.
And this card is the feminine. And I have I have two decks of cards. And this card is, you see a painting by Schouten on the front, who is a magnificent artist, Rob Schouten. And on the back of it is a teaching that corresponds with the painting.
Nice.
And it says the world is bereft of feminine consciousness. To bring Mother Earth back into balance, we must bring back our awareness of her. Language is a barrier between us, but woman has always communed with woman in an unspoken language, and so forth.
Wow. Very
Her roots are entwined with the essence of Mother Earth, for she too is feminine. Woman is the keeper of the planet and must not let her energy be rerouted by the male systems within woman or man. We are all in need of world harmony. Mother Earth has been misunderstood, but she is the universe. She is the womb for all that lives. Feminine consciousness is the energy that embodies the wisdom you need at this moment.
so true today. So true.
But anyway, it's a wonderful, it's called the Power Deck. And then I have another deck this one I did a long time ago. And then I have another deck out that is called the Oracle. It's an Oracle deck, and I joined with my beautiful friend Robert Taylor, a Native American from Oklahoma, and he did the paintings that are extraordinary. And I'll have to present that to you another time, because somebody borrowed that last night, so I don't have it right here. I can't believe it. But anyway, it's very Native American in the paintings, in the approach. And the teachings are again on the back of the card. And it's just beautiful. And these cards are a wonderful way of teaching people, Violet. You pick a card, you just pick a card for the day. And oh gosh, here's masculine.
Wow.
Isn't that gorgeous?
Mm-hmm.
And masculine, okay, let's just say you pick this card for the day. And it teaches you on the back, carrying your gift of consciousness from the heart of woman of Mother Earth, trek towards the summit of higher knowledge.
Wow.
And it's the whole teaching, and you just set it up somewhere and let it be there for the day. And it reminds you of maybe a different point of view than what you normally have. It gives you a little addition.
I love that. Well, I'm carrying your book Coming Full Circle in the store. So I'll have to check out your cards because we have cards, and add your cards to our
Yeah,
collection in the store so that people that are listening can stop by and look at them. We always put a sample deck out there so people can touch them and
yes.
connect with the cards, which are really nice. So Lynn, share with us on your website, what you offer. If people wanted to connect with you and find out more, what's out there that you offer people online that might live anywhere or
Anywhere in the world. It's fabulous, isn't it? Oh, I offer sessions for one thing, and those hourly sessions. And then I have a writing school for people who finally and at last realized that they've always had a book that they wanted to write. And the writing school is about finding your creative soul. And I wrote a book called Writing Spirit. And it is for people who not only want to write, but who want to find that muse, attract the muses to them so that they find that creative um, presence that they know is there, but can't always touch. And so that's Writing Spirit. Then I have the Shamanic School for Sacred Arts and Training. And that's a wonderful school that you can take from anywhere in the world because I've written the curriculum for it. So I have mentors in that school who can work with you, once a week. Then I work with you. And for instance, when you look at the fact that maybe you were abused early on in life, shamanic work heals that issue. Boy, it's dry here. I keep clearing my throat. It's so dry. Yeah, it's amazing. I've always lived near the water, and now I'm in Arizona, and it's
that is a big difference, isn't it?
huge. Yes, it's fine. It's beautiful. As my daughter Vanessa says, it's natural for me to be here because it used to be the bottom of the sea.
Uh-huh. Do you miss the water? Do you miss being by the water and living close to the water?
Terribly. Yeah. Well, and I'm a Pisces. I love the ocean. I want to be there. Think about it all the time.
I totally get that. I love the ocean too. Used to live in Florida, and I really miss being close to the beach and being able to walk next to the water.
Yeah.
And being in Colorado, we have the mountains and snow. Not to say that the mountains aren't beautiful, but I definitely miss.
There's a huge difference between mountains and ocean.
Yeah, it's a big difference. The energy's different. There's just a lot of differences. Well,
the other thing that I offer are online, I guess that's what you call it, webinars and teachings. If you go to my website, lynnandrews.com, you will see, you can sign up for free for different things, but the newsletter will keep you informed, or you can go to my website, of course, anytime. And my schools are schools without walls, so that you don't need to come, whether there's a pandemic or not. You don't have to come to the school to learn. We do it in a way that you can be anywhere in the world.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It's the one thing that COVID has shown us is that we can do things virtually and it's still as effective. But I'm sure, just like me, you miss that in-person contact. I love when I can get out and connect people in person. And
I give events as soon as we can.
Right. I love that. Well, as I said before we started this show, anytime you're in Denver and you want to stop by, we would love to have you, even for a book signing or an event, or just.
What's the name of your bookstore?
Discover Your Spiritual Gifts.
I have been to your bookstore.
You have?
Yes, I have.
Awesome.
There's another bookstore. I can't remember the name of it. It's a big bookstore, at least it used to be there.
Shining Lotus is here. Full Moon. Shining Lotus. Full Moon Books. For Heaven's Sake. Those are kind of the big ones in the area.
The big one, I don't know, I can't remember it, but it was a really big bookstore, and they brought me in, and I did a whole weekend I gave an event for a weekend.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, anytime you come back when COVID's over and you start traveling again, please reach out and let me know. We would love to do something and have you in the center. Just know
I would love that. I will love that, and for sure. And if you come in this direction, do the same. I don't have a store, but we can have lunch.
That's right. We can do something fun.
Really, something civilized.
Yeah, go out and eat. Who would have ever thought that would have been a big deal, right?
Well, it is now.
It is now to go out and eat. Absolutely. Well, Lynn, thank you so much for taking the time today to share your stories with us, to share your cards that you have, your wonderful books, and your new book that you have out. I have truly enjoyed. You can tell, right? Look at all my little tabs on her book. I have really enjoyed reading the book. I have a friend of mine that is a shaman too, and she had to get your book, and she read your book and looked at your book too. So we've really enjoyed reading it.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm so glad you enjoy it. And the cards are great to help you through this pandemic, because it gives you, kind of a boost for the day. You pull a card for the day from either of those decks. And the Coming Full Circle, that book is about kind of putting it all together. There's a lot of teaching in it. Obviously, I always write in that first person, but you'll enjoy it. It's a good story. And all the stories that I write about are true. That's the other thing. They're autobiographical. And sometimes the events are like going down La Caldera was extraordinary. And I wouldn't say that other people have to do that just to understand that they don't value themselves like they should. I wouldn't say other people need to do that. I think my teachers think I'm a bit slow, so they put me in front of these events that are sometimes really rather breathtaking.
Well, I love it, and thanks for sharing your stories with us, because I think they're really powerful, and it takes courage sometimes to share our stories. So thank you for having that courage to do that.
Violet, thank you so much for having me, and blessings to you, and the best of luck and joy to you and your family and all your beautiful people.
Well, thank you. And thank you for those watching today. I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us. And hopefully we'll see you really soon at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts.
Thank you for joining us. To find out more about Vialet and how she can help you discover your spiritual gifts, head over to discoveryourspiritualgifts.com and on YouTube at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. You can also send a personal message to Vialet through email, violet@discoveryourspiritualgifts.com. Until next time, remember, we are meant to have abundant and joyful lives. We hope to see you really soon at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts.
Discover connection, awaken sacredness, become empowered. Come experience the difference at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts.